What's going on, guys? Mayo Jones here, and I want to do a little recap of Week 11, and I'm gonna discuss about what happens in the matchups. So I'm gonna get to it. So before I get to my recaps for Week 11, don't forget to put a thumbs up to the video, subscribe to my channel for more options, and comment down your opinion below to see which team do you think is going to make the playoffs, or you think which team needs to do better in the future. We're going to get started here. Let's get started with Thursday Night Football, the Commanders versus Eagles. The Commanders have lost their last two games. They did really not look pretty good on offense, especially Thursday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles. Their offense did struggle a little bit. Like their defense barely kept them in the game, but they didn't really do enough to win because offensively they weren't really moving the ball. Jaden Daniels was under pressure and all that. And then as you look at the Steelers game where they played against, they could have at least won that matchup, but it all came down to them not converting the fourth down. So yeah. Washington's defense is starting to play better, but they could be exposed at times. Now, I thought the Eagles did a really good job moving the ball offensively, run the ball, creating play action with some quick passes. Yeah, and then the defensively, they played better, and they're playing like the best defense in the NFL right now. I mean, they're stopping the run, they're getting pressure on the quarterback. Their secondary is totally playing amazing right now. I mean, Quinton Mitchell is really good. Cooper Jardine is really good. Slay seems like he's okay. The safeties are good. The linebackers are amazing. Like, the Eagles defense is playing a lot better right now. So, yeah. So, the Commanders right now are just frauds. After losing 2 straight games, they're just frauds. So, we're going to see where they can go from there because they still have a chance to make the playoffs, though. But I don't know if they're going to win division. Now, next topic I'm going to talk about, the Saints have turned the corner, but it might be too late. Now, the Saints, we don't know if it's going to be too late for the Saints because the Saints have now won 2 straight games with their interim head coach. Now, I like how the way they play as an offense on Sunday against the Browns. I thought they moved the ball. They were throwing the ball. They were running the ball a little bit. Defensively, they played a lot better. They stopped the run. They stopped the pass. I mean, they couldn't really stop the pass because Jameis Winston, he threw for almost 400 yards. Like, he kind of looked better than Carr. But their defense did play a lot better in the game. I mean, they were putting pressure on Jameis Winston and all that. Now the question is, will the Saints be able to make the playoffs with this interim head coach? We don't know yet because I don't know if they're going to be able to win the division because the whole NFC South, it's pretty bad except for the Falcons who are just leading their division right now. The Saints still have a chance now. As you look at their schedule, it's really brutal because they have to play at least like 2 playoff teams, and especially 2 teams that totally can make the playoffs this year. They got to play the Rams, the Commanders, the Packers, and the Bucs again, which I don't know if they're going to be able to win those games, but we know the Giants and the Raiders aren't good. Maybe they win one of these games. So maybe it's too late because their schedule is really brutal, and they were on 2 games. They were on a losing streak before their coach got fired. But I felt with their new interim head coach, I feel like it's probably helping them a little bit. But I feel like, their defense is starting to keep them in games a little bit. Maybe if they keep them in games, maybe there's a chance they can have a chance to turn their season around. If they can have a good, because if they can play good as they supposed to be, they have a chance to beat the Rams. They have a chance to beat Washington, or like they have a chance to beat the Giants, and maybe the Bucks. Like the Saints have totally been playing really good. Especially, I thought the Saints offense played really good without their top receivers. Like Valdez Scanlon was looking pretty good last week because he was separating. So yeah, and the old line played better as well. So I don't know if the Saints gonna make the playoffs. We're gonna see. All right, next topic we want to talk about: are the Falcons in trouble? Now we're gonna discuss that the Falcons are in trouble because the Falcons now have lost 2 straight games. Now, as we look at Atlanta has not been looking pretty good as of lately, but Atlanta have shown themselves. Now they did have lost 2 straight. Now here's why: the Falcons defense have totally not been good at all. Like basically, their offense did struggle. What they should have beat the Saints though, but it all came down to the Falcons not converting on the fourth down late in the fourth quarter. But their offense just blew it. But you could argue saying the defense that blew it because basically their defense has totally not been playing really good as of lately. Because here's the thing: they cannot put pressure on the quarterback, and they don't really have a number one pass rush. But you can make an argument saying Matt Judon was a really good addition, though. But he's not playing really well right now, and also you you got Grady Jarrett, who's a really good run stopper, but he's but he I don't know if he could get to the quarterback. He doesn't look the same, so they don't have a number two pass rush because I do believe the Falcons will make the playoffs though. Because if you're gonna have a good defense, you have to put pressure on the quarterback. Because when you're playing, you have to put pressure on Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, and you gotta put pressure on Sam Darnold, because those are the guys that you're gonna face in the playoffs. So if you make it, because if you don't, they're gonna pick you apart. But they do have a great secondary, though. I like AJ Terrell. He's a special talent. Justin Simmons was a great addition, especially Jesse Bates. So I like their secondary there, but their secondary is not playing really great right now. Like they're giving up too many big plays. Like we seen against the Broncos, though. We seen Bo Nix pick them apart, though. He had 4 touchdowns for 307 yards, and he completed 28. He was 28 of 33. So the Broncos offensively, they're not playing. I mean, the Falcons offensively, they looked at pretty terrible as well. Like basically, they couldn't really move the ball. Like they couldn't run the football. Like their passing game was really bad. Like Kirk Cousins did not have a good game. So offensively, they're not playing as good as they should be right now, especially on defense. They're not. But I like to see Atlanta make the playoffs, but I highly doubt it. But I don't really know because if you look at as you look at the next couple games of their schedule, it's kind of brutal because they have a bye week, but the next couple games is pretty much brutal because they have to play at least 3 playoff teams. They have to play the Chargers, the Vikings, and they got to play the Commanders, which that's tough. Like Atlanta, we could definitely see this team totally miss the playoffs if they don't get it together. Now, the Bucks could totally win that division, but I understand that Tampa Bay did get swept by Atlanta, but right now Tampa Bay's defense can be a lot better because of Todd Bowles' scheme. Now, Atlanta, there's too many miscues for them, too many missed opportunities. Like Atlanta seemed like they look to be a bad team so far. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the Falcons could be in trouble, and the Falcons are frauds for real. So don't get me wrong, they're frauds, and the Falcons, because the Falcons defense cannot put pressure on the quarterback, because last week against New Orleans Saints they had 0 sacks, and then this week they only had 1 sack, which that's terrible, dude. Like Atlanta needs to get better, needs to be better on defense, getting pressure on the quarterback, and basically they cannot stop the run. And against the pass, they're not really good because they get exposed at times. But they can run the football with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, which that's really good. And they can throw the ball as well because they got good weapons on offense like Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and Kyle Pitts. Yeah, and the offensive line is really solid. And you still got Raheem Morris, who's a really good coach, which he's a really good defensive coach of mine, but I don't know if he has the pieces. But I don't know who their defense coordinator is, but he's terrible. But they have a really good offensive coordinator, but the play calling was really bad in that game. So yeah, so the Falcons, they could be in trouble, but we're gonna see what's gonna happen in the next couple weeks because they have a bye week coming up this week. We'll find out. Um, the next topic, I want to talk about the Jets are an embarrassment. The Jets are embarrassing. Now the Jets are embarrassing. The Jets are embarrassing. Now I want to talk about the Jets are embarrassing. Now there's something wrong with this team. Now the Jets so far were very competitive against the Colts. And all of a sudden they just blew it. Like, what's going on with the Jets, bro? Like, the Jets have lost so many games, dude. Like, what's going on with this team? Like, the Jets offense is totally not doing nothing. Like, the Jets offense, I mean, they were being competitive. Like, they basically blew it because of a defense. Like, they just made Anthony Richardson just run for a touchdown, and they just let the Colts offense, like, move the ball confidently very well. Like, basically, the Jets have been embarrassing all year. Like offensively, they're just average. Like they're not moving the football. Defensively, they're totally in a place where they're getting shredded. Like they got shredded by Anthony Richardson, who's basically inactive though. Who's basically inaccurate. Like basically, they just made Anthony Richardson look like CJ Stroud against his Jets defense. Like, what is his Jets defense doing? Like, basically, the Jets defense is not playing really well right now. I mean, they're getting shredded, and offensively, they're not converting. Like, they're not moving the ball, but you can make an argument saying, okay, they did move the ball against the Colts, which that's really good. They stay competitive, but it just got to the point where they just blew it. Like, the Jets got to do something. Yeah, I mean, I like how the way they play as an offense a little bit, but defensively, they're just not playing as good. I mean, the Jets did stop the run, but they just couldn't stop the pass that well. Um, like the Jets are such an embarrassing. Like this team's like 3-8, and I don't even know they're gonna be able to make the playoffs. So because because this schedule is right now starting to get brutal. It's not getting easier for them because they have to play teams like the Seahawks. They got to play the Dolphins twice. They got to play the Rams, who totally can make the playoffs, and they got to play the Bills, who's already going to clinch their division. So basically, their schedule is tough. I mean, the Jets. I mean, we understand they fired their GM, Joe Douglas, and now they're going to have a new GM. Like, this has got to be a stupid organization. Like the Jets did had a good offseason. Like you traded for Devontae Adams a couple weeks ago. You added an offensive lineman to like improve that, and then all of a sudden their defense is still the same as well, but they're getting pushed around. Like the Jets are just an embarrassment. I mean, they're just a joke this season. Like the Jets, I mean, in my opinion, I think the Jets should rebuild this franchise. And I'm just saying that because the Jets, are not looking like themselves right now, especially Aaron Rodgers. He's not playing as good as he should be. But most of his games he had ball out, and most of his games he start to struggle. So the Jets, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be. I don't know if it's too late to make changes, but I feel like it could be though because the Jets are sitting at 3-8 right now, and they're heading towards a bye. I don't know if they're gonna be able to get this fixed, which I highly doubt they won't though. Like I don't see them being a team like the Seattle Seahawks. I don't see them being a team like the Miami Dolphins. I don't even see them being a team like the Los Angeles Rams or the Buffalo Bills, who they have to play, what they did lost at home to, which the next time they got to play the Bills is going to be on the road. So yeah, so the Jets are just an embarrassing. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with the Jets. Like I don't really know what to say. I'm just done with this team. Like I'm done with the Jets, bro. This team's just a joke. Like I'm never picking them to win any more tough games because they're just brutal. Now, this topic we want to talk about the Jags are finished. Um, I want to talk about the Jaguars are finished. Now, as you all know, that the Jags, as of today, they are 2-9, and Jacksonville is one of the worst teams in the league. Like basically, they're one of the worst teams in the league. Like this team, like this team is one. It's just a joke. Like the Jags are finished. Because here's why: they're sitting at 2-9, and they have lost. They're on a 4-game losing streak, and they have lost like four of their last 11, four of their last I think 8 to 9 games, or like 7 games, 7-8 games. Like that's terrible. Like Jacksonville has totally not been looking like themselves. Like I've been saying this all year. They're one of the worst teams in the league, and this team's totally not making it far this year. Because look at this. Because basically, the Lions, I mean, trust me, against that game against the Lions, bro, like the Jags were so brutal against them. Like they just gave up 52 points against on the Lions, bro. Like the Jags defense gave up 52 points against the Lions. Jared Goff had 4 touchdowns with 412 yards. Like he was totally balling out though. Like he was totally lighting up that Jags defense. And on the other side, you know, the Jags couldn't stop the run though, because basically they almost gave up 200 rushing yards to the Lions. And then total yards, they gave up 600 yards to them. Like they gave us 645 total yards to the Lions. Like that's terrible, dude. Like and they gave up almost 40 first downs. Like that's crazy. I mean, the Jags offensively, they did not really look pretty as an offense. Because basically, Mac Jones, he was like 17 for 29 and 138 yards and an interception. Like, that's terrible, dude. Like, they got to put Trevor Lawrence, dude, because Mac Jones did not play really well for like 2 weeks, dude. But last week, I thought their defense played outstanding against the Vikings. But it's just that their offense didn't do enough to win the game because Mac Jones was terrible. He was 14 for 22, 111 yards, 2 interceptions, which that's terrible. Then they couldn't run the football or throw it. So, yeah, 52 points is terrible, dude. 52 points on the Lions, I mean, that is just not real good football to me. Like, the Lions defense was totally getting after them. The offense was totally running the football, throwing the football. Like, they were doing that. Like, Jacksonville, I feel they could be in a place where they could move on from Doug Peterson because of personnel. It could be, though, where they could look to move on from him. Now, Jags do have injuries, though. They're missing too many people. They lost Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk for the season due to injuries. So the Jags totally look like a bad team so far. And this team is so yeah, this team is really bad right now, and it's too late to make any change. It's too late to make changes now because this team is 2-9, and I feel like if Trevor Lawrence is out for the season, I don't see them winning another football game. They could easily lose out and get a top pick in the draft, which I could see them do that. So yeah, so Jags are finished and they're no longer making the playoffs. All right, next team. I want to talk about the Bears blew it. This is what's going on with the Bears, bro. The Bears did blew it because here's the thing. I thought against the Packers, I thought their defense played really well against the Packers, and then offensively, they kind of did convert it on fourth down, and they kind of did move the ball really well. But it all came down to the kicker, missing a point where the Packers blocked it. Like, the Bears, at least you had a chance to win, but it all came down to the kicker getting blocked. Like, the offense was playing really good, and then the defense was playing really good as well, but how could you lose to the Packers? Like, this has got to be some type of joke, though. Like, the Bears were totally the Bears are totally not as good. Like I've been saying, this team is bad because they have not been good for weeks, bro. Like, they're not. Like y'all need to wake up and call for help. Like, this team is totally not good. Like, they have been good in weeks. I mean, in 2 weeks they didn't score a touchdown, and then this week you scored at least one or two, which you totally in good field position to win the game after losing 4 weeks. But you could have, though. Like, how could you lose to the Packers? Like, the Bears were totally in position to win the game. And then you lose to the Packers on a game-winning drive? Like, come on. Like, Caleb Williams did all what he did. Like, he was starting to get accurate. Guys were getting open. Like, you might as well give yourself a chance, Bears. Like, you did really good. Like, I like the intensity you guys played. But the team is just not playing as good as it's supposed to be. Like, but the team is just continuing to blow games and not win games they should have won. This is like the second time the Bears have blew it. Because against Commanders, you blew it on a Hail Mary where Jaden Daniels threw a long touchdown pass, which I didn't expect to see. And now playing against the Packers, you just blew it with especially with a blocked field goal. I mean, this is just embarrassing. Like the Bears, like they're just such a joke. I'm just done with the Bears, dude. Like this team is totally not. I mean, this team's totally looking. This team's totally looking like they're not a playoff team this year. Like the Bears, I highly doubt it. I want to see them finish over 500, but I highly doubt that they can. But I just don't see it. Like based off the schedule, teams they gotta play next couple games they play, it's brutal because it's not looking easier for them because they have to play like four playoff teams. They gotta play the Vikings twice, which is with this game's gonna be at home, and then next game where it's gonna be at home for the first time, then it's gonna be on the road in week 15. Then they have to play the Lions next Thursday on Thanksgiving, where it's gonna be on the road. Then they play at home like in December. They gotta play the Niners. They gotta play the Seahawks, who I think is starting to look like they're a good team, and they gotta play against the Packers again. So basically, that's a tough schedule because the next time the Packers gotta play next time when the Bears play against the Packers, it's gonna be on the road. So yeah, so basically, yeah, I mean, this team sucks. Like, how they're gonna win games? If you just come and ask me, are you gonna say, are they better than the Vikings? No. Are they better than the Lions? No. Are they better than the Niners? No. Are they better than the Seahawks? No. Are they better than the Packers? No. I mean, they're all better. So this team is done. I mean, it's done. I mean, Matt Eberflus, he might as well just pack his bag and just say goodbye because they just need a new coach. But they did fire their OC, which that's good. The Bears just need to fire Matt Eberflus. Like they just need to do. They just gotta fix some stupid things, and maybe they can turn around. I don't know, but I'm just done with the Bears. Like there's a joke. Um, next topic I want to talk about: will the Broncos make the playoffs? Now, this is interesting though. Will the Broncos make the playoffs? Let's think about it. The Broncos right now, they're sitting at 6-5, and they're looking like a good team. So basically, they blew out the Falcons last week, which that was amazing. Bo Nix was 28 for 33, 307 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. So I don't know if Denver will make the playoffs, though, but I felt the Broncos did show some promising that they could be a playoff team. I mean, Bo Nix, he's starting to play really well. He's balling out. I mean, this week was his best game of his career. He had. The offensively, they're playing better. They're playing better as an offense. They're moving the ball. They're running the ball. I mean, I like how the way Sean Payton's getting young guys involved. I like how the way they're playing. Cortland Sutton, he's a stud. Offensive line is really good. Their offensive line is playing better, and the defense is totally playing lights out right now. I mean, I like how the way Vance Joseph is doing with the defense. He's totally putting pressure on the quarterback. Like he's forcing them to make mistakes. Like he's stopping the run really good. And basically defensively, they're starting to stop the pass really good. I like how the way their secondary is playing right now, and they're playing really good as a defense and they're playing good as an offense. But against the Chiefs last week, they should have won though. But it all came down to a blocked field goal. But I thought Week 11 was their best performance ever. So yeah, so the Broncos do look like a playoff team to me. I mean, Bo Nix looks like a future star. Like he could totally be rookie of the year because he's playing like he's a superstar right now. So yeah, I like how the way the Broncos are playing right now. They look like a good team. Um, Now as you look at their schedule, you know It's pretty tough though, but it looks pretty easier because they have to play the Raiders. They have to play the Raiders this week. They play the Browns after that. Then they get a bye week. Then they play the Colts. They play the Chargers again, the Bengals, and the Chiefs. So basically, the Broncos pretty much have an easy schedule a little bit, but it could be tough because they have to play at least like two playoff teams. And the Bengals could totally make it though, depending on how well they are. But the Bengals are looking good because they're 4-7 right now. So yeah, so the Broncos look like they could be a contender moving forward. I like how the way they're doing. I mean, I thought Bo Nix. I felt bad for saying that Bo Nix was not going to be good, but as you look at the past couple weeks, he's been playing solid. He's playing good. Like I feel like he's solid. Now I feel like that if they can build offense around him, support him with a couple weapons, like with Cortland Sutton, Javonte Williams. They don't have a tight end or a number two receiver, but I feel like they can look to improve that through free agency. And I feel like that Bo Nix has proven to us that he could give you a baseline to like beat the bad teams. Like like he could. So yeah. So Denver does look like a contender to me. But we don't know they're gonna make the playoffs moving forward. We're gonna see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Alright, now we're going to talk about the 49ers are frauds. Now, the reason why I'm saying that the Niners are frauds is here's the thing. They're sitting at 5-5, and the rest of the teams in the division, like the Seahawks and Rams, are 5-5, except for the Cardinals, who are 6-4. Now, the 49ers are frauds. Now, here's why. Now, the Niners have lost a heartbreaker to the Seahawks, where Geno Smith has ran for a touchdown on a game-winning drive. Like, this was so disappointing though. Like, how could you lose to the Seahawks, bro? Like, basically, I thought the Seahawks were not going to be good, but now the Seahawks are now looking like they could be making a playoff push after a win. Like the Niners, especially their defense was totally getting shredded, and all of a sudden they didn't really look as good as an offense though because they were starting the game kind of sloppy because they were struggling to move the ball, throwing the ball. I thought Purdy did not. Purdy, I thought he Purdy kind of looked inaccurate because he was 21 for 28 and he was 150 yards, one touchdown, interception. Like their passing game was totally not great. Um, their defense just needs to be a little bit better though. I mean, the Niners, they did not really look as good as an offense though. Like they probably should have blowed out the Seahawks though, but it all came down to the sloppiness on offense, especially with the sloppiness on defense. Like, what are you doing though? Like the Niners, the Niners defense, I don't know what they're doing right now because this Niners defense should be good, but they're not playing as solid as they should be. Like they're not. Like their defense is not playing solid. The offense is totally did not playing solid as well. Like the Niners look like they're completely broken. Like basically against the Bucks last week, they almost lost to them, but it all came down to their kicker missing too many field goals. And then you have which they should have beaten the Bucks by a lot, but it didn't happen. So the Niners basically, Brock Purdy. was outplayed by Geno Smith at the end of the game. Like Geno Smith outplayed Brock Purdy, which he did. Like Geno Smith was kind of having a good game here. Like he was throwing laser, he was avoiding a rush at the end. Like he was. And then as you look at it, as you look at it from a standpoint, like the Niners gotta figure out what they are, because the Niners, they're dealing with so many injuries. Like their schedule, is tough because they have to play. Because Brock Purdy is now day to day with a shoulder injury. George Kittle missed a game, but the Niners, do have injuries though. Like Brandon Ayuk is out for the year though, but he was so terrible though, because he would drop the pass in the red zone when it would have went for a touchdown. He also dropped the pass, and then and all of a sudden, he missed training, he missed practice due to a new contract, but they extended him. And Deebo Samuel has not looked like himself though recently though, but he's really good, but he's totally not been looking like himself. Like he's more like a running back though. Christian McCaffrey is more like a receiver and a running back though, and they need to start using Jordan Mason more, because CMC is more like a passing, like he's more like a receiver though in the back end. But they're not using Jordan Mason more because of CMC healthy. Like use Jordan Mason more, because he's been stepping up since CMC was hurt. Like use him more. Like they're running like the same plays. Like they're doing like they did last year against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and they blew it. And his defense should be good though. Like it has been good for over the past couple of weeks though. Like they've been keeping them in games. But it all came down to them like blowing leagues, like being up by double digits against the Rams and Cardinals. They should have won those games, but they all lost because they made those teams come back on it. So at least far as I can, and this is the same thing with Seattle though. They came back on the Niners. So this is brutal for the Niners. So far as I'm concerned, the Niners are pretty much an average team, in my opinion, and they're pretty much our frauds. And the Niners seem like they can't be trusted on the point spread. Not even against good quarterbacks. I mean, it's getting really bad for the Niners who have Super Bowl hopes. I'm not going to be really picking them anytime soon to cover the spread whenever they're playing against a decent team, because this team seems like to me like they can't even blow them out, because the game just get too close for them. And as you look at the next couple of games of their schedule, it gets a little brutal because they have to play the Packers. That's coming up on Sunday. They got to play the Bills next week. Then they got to play the Rams again at home. They got to play the Dolphins. And they got to play the Lions, who I think is pretty good. And they got to play the Cardinals again. So this schedule's looking brutal for them a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see. I highly doubt that they're going to make the playoffs, though, which I want to see them make the playoffs, which I highly doubt it. But we're going to see about that. Next game. All right, next topic I want to talk about what's there's wrong with the Bengals. There's something wrong with the Bengals. Now, hear what it is though. The Bengals right now are sitting at 4-7, and they have lost to the Chargers by one score, which they totally did. Like, how could you lose to the Chargers when Joe Burrow is having the best game of his career? Like, this is what's wrong with the Bengals, dude. This is what's wrong with the Bengals, guys. Like, the Bengals have totally been trying to turn their season around, but almost every week they're starting to choke. That's what's wrong with the Bengals. They're starting to choke. Like, think about it against the Chargers early in the week. Like, basically, they kind of started getting kind of sloppy, and all of a sudden, they gave us like 24 points. They gave it like so many points in the first half, and all of a sudden they tried to make a comeback against the Chargers, and all of a sudden it got to the point where their kicker just missed 2 field goals. Like, that's crazy. How could you miss 2 field goals when you're trying to make a comeback? Like, that's crazy. Like, like you can't just miss field goals. Like, you can't do that. Like, I don't know what their kicker name is, but he sold. Joe Burrow seemed like he's kind of sold because guess what? Like, it was late in the fourth quarter where most of the players had dropped passes. Like, and then they punted on fourth down. And then all of a sudden their defense just blew it where they allowed J.K. Dobbins to rush for a touchdown to win the game. Like, that's just crazy. How could you lose to the Chargers? Like, you were very competitive in that game, but late in the second half, and all of a sudden you just let the Chargers just run down your throat in the end. Like, what are you doing? Like, Joe Burrow's having the best game of his career, and he's been solid. Jamar Chase, offensively they look good. I mean, Joe Burrow looks amazing. Jamar Chase looks good. T. Higgins looks good, especially coming off an injury, missing 2 games. Chase Brown's looking like he's becoming the next great running back. The offensive line looked better, even though they missed their left tackle. Defensively, they were playing really good at the end until they blew in the fourth quarter, where their offense couldn't convert on third down. Like, that's crazy. Like, how could you lose? It's brutal for this team. Like, think about this. As you look at the last games of their schedule, they should have beaten the Ravens last week, but it all came down to them not converting a 2-point conversion because their defense was playing amazing against the Ravens till they ended up blowing it. And then they got blown out by the Eagles. They lost a close one to the Ravens. They lost to the Commanders. And they lost to the Patriots by like 6. And then they lost to like the Chiefs. So those are some games that you should have at least won. Because if the Bengals should be good, they're supposed to be, they would have a good record right now. I mean, they would be like undefeated. They will have at least like 1 or 2 losses this season if this team's supposed to be good. But this team defense is starting to let Joe Burrow down. Like, they need to play better on defense because they're not blitzing a lot. They're not getting pressure on the quarterback. Like, because if you face teams in the playoffs, if you make the playoffs and you face a team like the Ravens and the Bills and the Chiefs and the Chargers and the Texans, you're going to have to put pressure on the quarterback because if you don't, they're going to pick you apart. Because I said the same thing about the Falcons. Like, because the Falcons don't put pressure on the quarterback, they're going to, teams are going to pick them apart. So right now, the Bengals are looking like they're not a playoff team because they're always starting off slow in September and then they start to turn things around. But this year, it's not working for them because basically their defense is totally not playing as good as they're supposed to be. They're not stopping the run. They're not stopping the pass. They're giving up too many plays where they're letting guys wide open. Like, they need to play better on defense and on offense if they want to get this fixed. Because if they want to get this fixed, they just gotta do it though. Like offensively, they can't be sloppy. Defensively, they gotta start playing better. Like, that's what they have to do. And I don't know if this team's gonna be able to make it far to the playoffs though, because their schedule right now is starting to get a little bit brutal and it's not looking easy for them because they have to play the Steelers twice and they gotta play the Broncos, at least 2 playoff teams. But they're heading towards a bye. We're going to see what they're going to get towards it. I feel like there's a chance they can turn their season around, which I highly doubt that they will, but I don't really know because the Bengals, their playoff chances is starting to hold them back and all of a sudden like that. And guess what? Them having a bad record is wasting their season because they have guys who are on the final year of their contract. Like, T. Higgins is a free agent next year, so is Trey Anderson. But I highly doubt they bring these guys back next year, which I highly do because if they don't, this team can totally be in a rebuilding mode. And Zach Taylor and Big and Lou Anarumo should be fired because Big Lou's not doing a really good job of the defense. Zach Taylor, I don't even know what he's doing. He's calling too many. I mean, he's like some of these games. I mean, it could be because of personnel. I don't know. I mean, I really want to see the Bengals finish above 500. I would love to see that, but I highly doubt it. I mean, I don't think it's too late to make changes right now, but we're going to see what happens. I don't really see them beating a team like the Steelers, though, or maybe the Broncos, though, because the Broncos are looking good. So, yeah, we're going to see what's going on. We're going to see what happens. Last topic I want to talk about is are the Chargers legit? Now, I want to talk about the Chargers legit. So basically, the Chargers are legit because here's the thing. They're on a hot streak right now. They have won 4 straight games after losing in week 7. So this team is looking hot right now. I like how the way the Chargers are playing. Like, basically, they almost blew the game to the Bengals, though. Like, here's the thing. Their defense right now is playing lights out right now. They're stopping the run. They're stopping the pass. They're putting pressure on the quarterback. I like what they're doing as a defensive unit. Offensively, they're playing really well, especially they're throwing the ball. Their O-line's protecting. They're running the ball a little bit. I mean, J.K. Dobbins is now looking good coming off an injury. The offense, I mean, I like how the way that Jim Harbaugh is getting the young guys involved. I mean, Lad McConkey looks good. He looks like he could be Justin Herbert's next go-to guy. Josh Palmer, he's getting involved, but he has been looking like himself. Quentin Johnson, he's totally has stepped up and he's totally looking like himself right now. Will Dissly is looking really good. I like how the way the Jim Harbaugh's. I don't know their OC, but Greg Roman. I like how the way he's getting the young guys involved. So yeah, so I like how the Chargers are playing as a team right now. They're playing really good as an offense and as a defense right now, and they do look like a real contender right now. Because I like how the way they are playing on defense and on offense. So yeah. So yeah, I feel like the Chargers are legit, but I don't know if they're gonna be able to win the division though, because you look at their schedule, it's getting much easier for this team because this team has playoff hopes. Because they have to play the Ravens this week, then they play the Falcons next week, then they gotta play the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, then they gotta play the Bucks, and they gotta play against the Broncos and the Patriots and the Raiders. So this schedule's pretty easier though. So I feel there's a chance they do clinch the 5 seed or maybe the 6 seed. So this team does have playoff hopes though, for real. Because their playoff hopes are alive and they do have a chance for a wild card. So yeah, I like how the way the Chargers are playing right now and this team looking legit right now. I feel like this team is looking to be back in the playoffs this year. We know they didn't make it last year, but I feel like they're gonna be back. So yeah. Well, that's all my week 11. Those are all my week 11 reaction and my recap for this week. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget if you disagree with me with all my reactions, just let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Well, this is Mail Jones, a big fan. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys later. Peace.